It's hard to imagine, but if Virginia Giuffre were alive today, I think she'd be incredibly proud. I know she would be, in fact. Her memoir has done what decades of palace intrigue and legal maneuverings couldn't. It has shaken the British monarchy to its core. Prince Andrew has officially lost his royal title, no longer a prince, stripped of the status in which he was born because of the truth that she dared to tell. Still, he gets to live rent-free in a cottage off of Sandringham, and last time I checked, Scotland Yard's is not investigating him. But at least in the UK, there's some accountability. The UK ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, had to step down from his post because of his friendship with Epstein. But what about here in the US? Some powerful men who worked in finance, academia, and tech had to step down from their lofty posts. But no public officials. No one in public life elected to serve us and represent us and be leaders in our community have had to pay a price. What does that tell us about America? Here's something I can tell you as someone who spent a lot of time with Virginia, knocking on the doors of people that she believed could corroborate her story of abuse. This book is not the full story. She was trafficked to 36 men. They are all not mentioned in this book. There are just a handful of names and a handful of descriptions of other men. Some people close to Virginia told me that the publisher feared lawsuits. They couldn't insure Virginia, and Virginia couldn't insure them. And in this time of lawfare, when powerful people can just sue everyone for defamation, they can control the narrative with their money. On CNN's Erin Burnett OutFront, I talk about the ripple effects of Virginia's memoir, Nobody's Girl, because the FBI knows Virginia's full story. So there is still more to come. It's in the Epstein files. I'm Tara Palmeri, and this is the Tara Palmeri Show.
Tara Palmeri, Richard Quest are out front. Richard, obviously this is huge news where you are, right? Prince Andrew, no longer Prince Andrew. And it's obviously really important in the United States, in Washington, around the U.S. as well, because of the crucial questions. Why is this happening in London when there is no movement here in the United States, which was where Epstein lived and the center of his life and his inner circle?
There are two aspects to it. First of all, the increasing pressure that was put to bear. Don't forget, the king has done this very, very late in the day, but that's because the waters of danger are lapping around the monarchy, and he had to be seen to do something, not just let Andrew voluntarily lose his titles. He had to be seen, and that's why I've got the statement here. His Majesty initiated a formal process. Well, you've got to go back to 1919, somewhere around about there, before you see that happening again. And the other reason is the stench. The stench of entitlement, that he was living in this house. And you just don't have, look, I live both in the UK and the US. At the moment in the US, there is nothing like that sort of groundswell of outrage that there has been here in the UK about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he now is. And that does not yet exist in the US. When it does, I suspect that there will be movement.
Yes, and Tara, that's the question. So Thomas Massey is read what he posted on social media. In part, he says this is a victory for victims. However, it appears that rich and powerful men in the United States have immunities and privileges exceeding those of royalty in Britain. An obvious and yet excruciating point to make, Tara. So what is the difference here?
I don't know. I mean, perhaps the fact that it's more expensive to that the royals cost more for the the UK taxpayers. But in the United States, our public officials, they are elected. They are responsible to the people that they represent, and it is up to them to be transparent. And when the people are asking for the Epstein files, they should have to respond to it. I mean, the UK ambassador to the US had to step down from his position based on a few emails that show that they were friends. We know that the president of the United States was very close friends with Jeffrey Epstein. How close of an association is going to cause people to react? And I do think there is a groundswell here, Richard. I just think that people aren't paying attention. I think that an entire party is deciding not to pay attention because they're following the president. But if you listen to the just everyday people, they want to know more.
So, in this question of whether it's a matter of if or when, and I think that's really still a question here, Richard, right? Thomas Massie, he stands up there, pounds the table every day, right?
Right.
And, but what was it that actually is the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back then in the case of Andrew?
I think it was two things. It was, first of all, a picture that came out at the weekend, which showed Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein, and Harvey Weinstein all attending a birthday party at Royal Lodge, the very house that Andrew's been living in for the last 30-odd years, 20-odd years, and not paying any rent. And then there's this statement, which you read. Their Majesties wish to make clear their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of all forms of abuse. In the case of the US, you've not had from those involved. You've not had that same sort of phraseology. And in fact, if you go back to what the president has said about Giuffre, he was talking about how annoyed he was with Epstein for stealing his staff from the massage parlor and from the spa. That is not the same thing as accountability for things that took place, which of course, and eventually it is the money that gets you, by the way. When the people find out that somebody's living free, somebody's done something wrong, somebody's gained pecuniary advantage, that's the bit that'll eventually
it's amazing. And the president's called it a democratic hoax. Of course, we're talking about rape and abuse of underage girls, pedophilia. It's not a hoax. Tara, it wouldn't be happening if it weren't for Virginia Giuffre, and frankly, if it weren't for her new book, because people knew about her and Prince Andrew, and he had been in some ways held accountable, but all not in terms of the titles and his lifestyle or any of that. And her family obviously is saying that she brought down a British prince. It appears to be true. You knew her very well. And she did mention Prince Andrew in the book, and she named him and she gave new details, which is why we are where we are tonight with Prince Andrew. But what she didn't do in the book, Tara, was name people in the United States who could be implicated, right? Maybe you could figure some of them out. She didn't put them all in. We know there are many. Why not?
I've thought about that because I know she's been trafficked to as many as 36 men. She's shown me the list of the men that she was trafficked to. Some of them are people in public life in America. And I think that there's fear of probably the publishers were worried about dealing with defamation. She likely couldn't insure the publishers, and they didn't want to insure her. And that is a sad state in America right now, where people are afraid to tell the truth. Andrew Lowney has a book called Entitled about Prince Andrew. It's a bestseller in the UK. It details his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein because he mentioned Epstein's relationship with Melania. It's not published in the US. There is so much more to this story than she even could publish. Heartbreaking. But it will come out. I know that. I believe it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Tara. And also, Richard, thanks so much. I know, obviously, it's late there. So thank you both so much.
That was another episode of the Tara Palmeri Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to support my independent journalism, please go to tarapalmeri.com. That's TARAPALMERI.com and sign up for my newsletter, The Red Letter. By becoming a paid subscriber, you can help me continue doing what I love to do, and I do it for you, investigative journalism. I want to thank my producer, Eric Abinate, Abby Baker, who does social media and research, and Adam Stewart, who handles my graphics. If you like this show, please subscribe, rate it, share it with your friends. That's how you keep me going. I'll be back again this week.